Ramadan Mubarak to those observing the holy month, and welcome everyone to the last of the QEERI webinars. I really hope that you enjoyed the two previous seminars from my colleagues, Dr. Ayub and Dr. Jenny, and also that you will be enjoying this. So in this webinar, I will be presenting you the efforts that we have been conducting, my team has been conducting during the last month and a half in translating some of the research efforts in the field of renewable energy into useful tools to contribute to fight COVID-19 crisis, and how these tools can be further used for epidemic pandemics and future crises. So the rationale of this work is so when as the coronavirus 19 continues to spread worldwide, we have understood that there is a pressing need for situation awareness tools to help contribute decision makers and the public to understand and avoid risk of contagion. And these platforms need to address three main points: know and understand COVID-19 spread in the local context, project the local spread of COVID-19 in the near future, and project this spread in alternative scenarios. So it is true that COVID-19 research is at its very initial stage today, but there is some evidences that monitoring, mapping, and forecasting solar resources and weather conditions may be helpful to anticipate and assessing the risk associated with COVID, and in adapting the physical distancing measures. So with the models and methodologies that we have developed for renewable energy, we can help develop COVID-19 situation awareness platform through assessing and forecasting the spread of COVID-19, as we are doing with a solar energy application, production forecast, and adoption, and also to simulate the evolution of COVID under different policy interventions, which is something that we are also doing in renewable energy. Before going to the subject of the discussion, just a brief introduction of our institute. The Qatar Environment and Energy Research Institute is the leading development and innovation institute in Qatar in water, energy, and environment. But not only, very recently, we have incorporated more expertise and capabilities, for example, natural and environmental hazards, corrosion center, and science program. We have a state-of-the-art core lab laboratory, and we have I would say also state-of-the-art indoor and outdoor test facilities to test technologies and prototypes in under real conditions. So the Energy Center, with about 45 researchers, it aims to create and advance solutions to the most pressing energy challenges with a focus on desert climate, and contribute to Qatar economic growth and diversification, supporting energy security, economic efficiency, sustainable environment, and safety. To do so, we run a portfolio of projects structured in 6 main programs: energy conversion, energy management, energy efficiency, novel materials for energy, disruptive technologies, and catalysis and process technology. I will not enter in detail, but I will be more than glad to receive your inquiries and to give more information about the activities that we run in Energy Center in QEERI. If we go in detail, one of these programs is the Energy Management Program, which aims to contribute to integrate renewable energy in the national power system and develop renewable energy market in Qatar. So within its specific aims, the Energy Management Program aims to create a solar mapping and forecasting platform modeled from satellite data and calibrated with ground measurements, thanks to the 14 meteo stations that you can identify here in the country, in Qatar, that QEERI manage, and that can be identified in the solar map that we have built here through an exercise of adapting satellite images to ground measurements to optimize the efficiencies and for the prediction of solar forecasting. So this approach has contributed to significantly reduce the forecast and prediction deviation errors of previous models. So the simulation in the right side of the slide shows a solar radiation day ahead forecasting example of what we have been doing in the last years based on our modeling expertise. And this is something that it is crucial to model PV production. So to further stimulate renewable energy adoption and training, we have also developed models based in an innovation diffusion approach to provide support to decision making in energy policy. And these two specific aims and these two models and approach and methodologies is what we have been tuning to address COVID crisis. So if you take into consideration this expertise and capabilities, and since the COVID-19 virus outbreak, we have been looking to the recent evidences that indicate that the right combination of sunlight, temperature, and degree of absolute humidity may influence the variability of the virus. So today, with the most updated data, more than 78% of cases of COVID reported cases take place in areas with temperatures up to 15%. And this is in regions with colder and less humid late winters and early springs. It means temperatures ranging between 3 and 17 Celsius and absolute humidity ranging from 4 to 9 grams per cubic meter, which corresponds to the red zone here in this right picture. The green area corresponds to the lowest level of disease spread and the lowest level of reported cases. So this suggests that COVID-19 virus could have a reduced viability and would see its spreading capacity diminished in warmer, humid climates, and that solar and climatic conditions, mapping and forecasting, as we have been doing for PV photovoltaic mainly and renewable energy, could be a very useful tool to be integrated in the decision-making policy package to take more and better informed decisions. So it is important to know that also that this red region is known as the Sun Belt area, as it is the area of higher potentiality for photovoltaic electricity production. So what we have been doing? Since the onset of the pandemic, we have realigned our priorities and put our expertise and capabilities to the service of the country to fight against the pandemic. So in this sense, we have tuned our machine learning methods that we developed for solar mapping and forecasting, and we have applied them to data coming from the ongoing pandemic internationally and locally to build computational methods of COVID-19 transmission rates as a function of methodological and solar radiation parameters. We have added 2 epidemiological, social, and we are in the way to add policy and intervention and economic factors. So we use this model and time series forecasting to predict daily cases of COVID, as we do for energy solar radiation at a future date in a specific location based on estimated or previously observed daily case in the same location. So this model will enable the creation of dynamic maps, as you can see here in the right side of the slide, on geographic information systems, GIS, that will help us to visualize the transmission rate as a function of the risk to viral exposure across the nation and worldwide. We would not be able to do this work without our partners, in particular solar radiation data, Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Service, and of course, QEERI and Qatar Meteorology Department collaboration to run the 14 meteo stations around the country. And one very important partner is Transvalor from Mainz Paritech, who is providing worldwide meteorological and environmental data. Once we have developed the model and the machine learning tool is running, the model starts to provide us with some factors. So these slides summarize the factors that the model consider or evaluate as the most important and relevant. So the model uses data The model that we have built use data from more than 191 locations, countries and regions around the world, and use 33 variables, more than 1.2 million data points. So from these 33 variables, the model provides the top 20 for it to build itself. So the model uses 33, but it selects these 20 as the most relevant for the case under study. So here in blue, you can see the climatic relevant variables. The socioeconomic are in red, and the air quality related are in green. So as you can see in this figure, the model recognized significant correlations between the coronavirus spread and the air quality in the form of direct and indirect gas emissions, and also with climatic variables in the form of solar radiation, GHI, which means global horizontal irradiation, and UV, ultraviolet light, and of course, temperature. It is important to note that these two and the others socioeconomic factors, as GHS, global health security, and gross national income per capita and population, as an example, are control variables that the model used to weight the differences between countries and locations. One of the important elements is to evaluate the capacity of the model to reproduce historical data to assess its robustness and to assess its precision level. Here we show some of the preliminary results for two selected locations, which is we have selected Qatar and Lombardy, Italy, as well as worldwide. We have selected this location to show you the high reliability of the project of the model, because we can see that the model is able to describe well the evolution in time of the trend of new daily cases at different stages of the epidemics. So it means a growing stage in Qatar, but a decreasing stage or lowering stage in Italy after going through the whole seasonal epidemic fashion. It means growing, reaching the peak, and decreasing. If we look at the overall global situation, the model is quite capable too of following the global number of cases. So the overall performance of this model is very good, even if the model is still missing information on policy measures, which means, for example, restrictions, school closures, quarantine, and this is something that we are adding now in the model to follow with our contribution to fight COVID-19. The next step, apart from adding these socioeconomic factors, is to translate the model into GIS. You remember, GIS is a Geographic Information System, and to do that in a visualization way, in such a way that we can estimate the COVID case transmission and estimate a forecast, do forecasting estimations. So these maps will help the public and the government alike reduce the risk of COVID contagion and could be adapted to different infection data to help manage other viral outbreaks. So here in this figure, we see Middle East, and we see that each country has a pile of square layers, and each square layer corresponds to a single day. This allows us to follow the spread, to tune the model, and it will be feeding the modeling for forecasting. So the ensuing GIS platform will provide a basic tool for risk assessment in the current and the future viral epidemic pandemics. Currently, we are dealing with average data. This is why you see just one column per country, but we have already reached the relevant entities to have regional data and to gather all this localized geographical information to be able to build a more comprehensive 3D maps for forecasting estimation. And this is our final target in this effort, in the same way that we did and we do today for our solar monitoring and forecasting. Moving forward, it's in parallel to start building the 3D GIS mapping, we have also started to add the individual social behavior through mobility limitations, which is something that we are doing today following an agent-based model based in the model that we have developed at QEERI to measure the impact of innovation diffusion on the adoption of renewable energy technologies within the neighborhoods of Doha. So we are trying now to develop simulations for Qatar and its municipalities using localized and geographical localized data from MOPH, which is the Ministry of Public Health. We will integrate those data into GIS visualization, and we will be transmitting these tools, these figures, to policies as instruments for policy interventions that authority can enforce to mitigate the spread in add or remove constraints and limitations. So it will help to define travel bans, stay-at-home restrictions, mandate physical distance in public, the use of a mask. It is important that I let you know that even if it is our final target to have this kind of GIS visualization by neighborhood, this is just today a simulation with no real data, and it is just for illustration purposes, to showcase you the capabilities of how the GIS forecasting map will look like once the real localized data per neighborhood will be available. But they are not today real maps, it's just a simulation. The approach we are developing is based on creating a scale-free network to reproduce the architecture of a real-world social network that reflects as close as possible the Qatari society. And this is when we add the agent mobility, which regards to the confinement restrictions. You can see that with this simulation, we are able to compare different degrees of mobility and how it affects to shape or flattening the peak of the pandemics. So here we have, I showed you two main scenarios, one where the agent mobility is set at 60%, and the other where the agent mobility is set at 35%, which means stay at home, but not complete lockdown, which is Doha situation, and near lockdown, which is similar to Qatar. So the members of the population here are categorized into three main groups. So infected, susceptible, and unsusceptible. And at each tick of the model, each agent takes a step in a random direction so that the agent comes in contact one with another. So by controlling the reach of the agents, we can control the extent of their social mixing, hence we can control how the protective measures helps us to shape the peak to prevent the healthcare system to be overloaded and to have the peak of the pandemic below the health system capacity threshold. So to conclude this presentation and before opening the door to your questions, so what we want to communicate, to showcase and to communicate to you, and the main messages is that energy-related models and methodology research can provide a strong contribution to the understanding and proactive response to the COVID-19 pandemic and similar viral infections events. So these are preliminary results. We are really excited because the first results are really promising, and we think that the integration of information about solar radiation and other meteorological factors will help to develop better models for infectious diseases. So the first results show that the model recognized significant correlation between the coronavirus spread in the form of these parameters are mainly air quality in the form of direct and indirect gas emissions, and climatic variables in the form of solar radiation, GIHI, UV, and temperature. With the models of innovation aggregated to these meteorological models, we can be effective in exploring the development of COVID pandemic and other viral infections events, and contribute to policymakers to make the right balance between reducing at maximum the spreading while controlling and reducing also at maximum the effect in economic measurements or in the economy of the different countries. So we really think that when we will finish this effort, we will be able, as we have already demonstrated with the solar forecasting, we will be able to provide to our main stakeholders these platforms to respond proactively to the COVID-19. So the team in the Energy Center that has been conducting this effort is mainly in energy management program. Dr. Antonio, Dr. Dunia, Giovanni, who is assisting me today with the questions and the presentation, Dr. Daniel, Dr. Ameni, and Sachin. And we have been, we are very thankful to Dr. Ana Maria too from QEERI Environment and Sustainability Center that she is contributing with the policy part. So it has been an amazing work with a very amazing team, I would say. So just to finish before going through your questions, you will be receiving very soon a new seminar in the impact of COVID crisis in the energy market, because energy can not only help to address the COVID crisis, but it has been one of the sectors most affected by COVID. So we will be analyzing this impact and how LNG can have a key role for a sustainable economic recovery. So I thank you all very much for your discussion, for being here, and I let Dilras the word now. Thank you, Dilras.
You are welcome, Dr. Veronica. Thank you so much. That was absolutely interesting, and it was a new perspective for a lot of us as to understand how energy and energy research plays a part in this. We have a lot of questions coming in. If you can just give me a moment, I will be sharing the questions. Can you just tell me how long has your team been involved in this particular solar monitoring for COVID research?
Yeah.
And it has been the highlight.
Yeah. So what concerns the solar forecasting activity, which is related to energy, just energy-related solar forecasting and mapping and forecasting, the team has an experience of 4 to 5 years. They have done just an amazing work in finishing the solar Qatar Atlas to help our stakeholders to understand which are the best locations in the country to install and to develop power plants. They have been doing a big, and they have a great experience in transferring satellite images to merge them with ground databases, which is data with ground-based data, because they are to have this data correlated with satellite images give a much higher reliability and precision for solar forecasting, and indeed it will help to reduce, to have a better return of investment in power plant electricity production from PV, photovoltaic power plant. So just to summarize, more than 5 years experience in the model in terms of energy, and when in translating this model to COVID fight, of course, 1 month and a half, which has been the time of to be collecting data and to build this data. And now we are running the model in a almost daily basis.
In fact, that actually leads me to the first question we received. How often do you run these modeling simulations? You know, not just related to COVID-19, but even before that, how often, how frequent is the simulations run?
So for the solar forecasting, it's a continuous way. So we have a stream, we receive in a streaming the continuous data. I think the time set is 2 minutes. We receive continuously data from our 14 meter stations. And we are building our database in a continuous daily basis. For COVID, we are updating the model in a daily base. We are updating the database in a daily base with the new data that are announced and communicated by the different entities around the world, and we run it in a as needed base. It means it can be daily or it can be in two or three times per week to better optimize the precision of the model. Yeah.
That is quite interesting to know. The next question we have for you is this. What is the logic between methane or CO2 emissions and COVID contagion, in your professional opinion?
Okay, so this is a question that we have when we look to the model and we look to the parameters that the model was considering highly important. It's the first question that we had. So today we cannot really answer that question in a straightforward way, because we need to consider that the model is at its initial stages. So two main considerations. The model provides the most relevant data that can be direct or indirect. It means, let's take an example. If temperature is direct, it means that when the temperature will go down, the viability of the virus will be decreased. If it is indirect, it means that it needs to be together with other parameters to have effect. And for example, the methane and CO2 emissions is a case of figure of indirect contribution. So we do not think that they have a direct contribution, but as higher methane emission and higher CO2 emission links to less or lower air quality regions, and lower air quality regions are usually more populated. So it means we have interaction, individual interaction is higher. It's regions that are more where there are more industries. So it means that people is moving more from home, is commuting more from home to work. So we cannot look today to these parameters individually. We need to look to them globally. And we think that the next step, which is adding the socioeconomical parameters, will help us to better understand which is this link.
Thank you so much for that clarification. It helps understand the existing data a lot better. So the next question we have, and this I've seen at least 4 times from 4 different people, variations of this. Does the research you have, does the global research that's happening in this topic indicate that summer will bring relief? As you know, Qatar hits 50 degrees. So does that mean we will be safer in peak summer hours?
Yeah. So we cannot say today if that the virus will stop. The only thing that we can say is, according to the model that we have developed and seems reliable, there is a high probability that the virus will see decrease its viability and spread viability with higher temperatures combined with high humidity, which is the case of Qatar starting August. So we can say that from the first results of the model, this will be the case. We may see reduce in the ferocity of the virus.
That is quite interesting. So as yet we can't say for certain that summer would mean much of a relief. Am I right in inferring what you just told us?
Yeah.
Okay. That is interesting. So that leads me directly to this question that popped up. So there is conflicting understanding with regards to the effect of temperature. So you mentioned that the red area, that's the sun belt, has more cases. So it seems that high temperatures may or does not affect the rate of COVID-19. Do you have any insights?
Yeah. Can you, Dilras, give me, because there is a misunderstanding in this understanding.
Okay, so you would like
give me back, please, to share my screen.
There you go. You should be able to share your screen
So share my screen. We have this slide. So there is, I think that maybe I explained myself wrong. So if you look here, this is the Sun Belt, which is the red region. The cases the 78% cases do not take place here in this Sun Belt region. They take place from 30 degrees north latitude, but through the north, and 30 degrees south latitude from the south. So the red part that corresponds to this blue, to these regions, is this one. It means temperatures that are between -0 to 15, which are taking place here, and absolute humidity between 4 and 10. So it means that this region, in terms of temperature, corresponds to this north part and this south part, which is where the 78% of the cases has been communicated up to date. So now that I'm here too, so you see that the orange circles are the temperature relative humidity pair. It means that it is not just temperature, it is the pair temperature and humidity. It means that if we are in a location with 30 degrees Celsius, but we have a relative humidity very low, 20%, it means that we are, or even 40%, we still are in the red region where most cases appear. We need to have the combination of high temperature, which is that axis, and high humidity, which is that axis. So I think that now it's more clear that this red region with the highest case, when we go to the solar radiation map, corresponds to the coldest region. You can see here the scale of in temperature. So I think that I have clarified your question now.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification. Just so those who are listening to us know, we will be sharing our email address towards the end of the webinar, and I would be very happy to connect you to our senior research directors, including Dr. Veronica Muhammad Ayub, the Air Quality Director, as well as Dr. Jenny Lawler, who leads our water program. And you can ask us specific questions if you have any, and I will share it with them, and we will respond to you in detail if you need further clarifications. Okay, so one of the questions that just came up now is that so many other universities in the world are doing predictive monitoring for COVID-19. So are you comparing your studies with other university databases in the region or beyond?
Yeah, for sure. So we are not doing, at QEERI and in Energy Center, we are not doing specific research in COVID. But of course, the outcomes of our models are being benchmarked with other research that is being done internationally. We, in the scientific environment and in the scientific world, we need to benchmark always our results to be sure that what we are doing is the right approach, and that our results are reliable and make sense regarding other parameters that we may not be considering that others are considering.
You know, so that it is good to know that you are benchmarking your data with others. So the data itself is something that we can trust. Okay, so this is another question that we got. Since most people will be indoors in air conditioning when it gets hot, and transmission, as we know today, is generally person to person. So will the weather conditions really have an impact within Qatar? We are all indoors. Would it increase social distancing, for example? What are your thoughts?
So even if you are indoor or outdoor, the weather conditions will affect the virus in the same way. The only difference is that when you are indoor, will you be able, if you are already sick, you will be able or not to transmit that to your family. So this is something that we are also considering in this in Energy Center. It will be the objective of future communication. So we have also two other projects. One is led by Dr. Fadwa El-Melouhi, where we are looking to how to develop nanomaterials, nanoenzymes that will be used as a coating for the surfaces to reduce the viability of the virus. And also we are looking to ultraviolet radiation in HVAC points to implement this ultraviolet radiation to purify the air that is being circulated through the air conditioning. So to answer your question, it will be still affecting, the weather condition will be still affecting the virus. It will be just the transmission path, which will be different and confined to the indoor environment.
Okay, thank you so much for that answer. So similarly, we spoke about how temperature affects. We've also had questions about humidity. So why does Qatar get humid, first of all, if you can tell us? And how do you think Qatar's summer humidity percentage will affect the spread of the virus?
So I cannot really answer why Qatar gets so humid. I can just tell you, please send that question to our QEERI communication email, and the director of and the team in environmental and sustainability center will be able to answer you the why. I can only answer the how. According to our methodology and our models, the humidity percentage, which is more than 70–80%, with 40–45 Celsius, will strongly or may strongly affect the viability of the virus. Just please remember that we are not saying that the virus will stop or the virus will disappear. We are just communicating the fact that with increasing humidity and increasing temperature, both of them combined, there is a high probability of having the virus weakening, and the ferocity of the virus and its viability will be reduced. We cannot say that he will disappear. It may happen, but we cannot say that.
Thank you so much for that. So there was just something that popped up on my screen, and it is more of a discussion point rather than an exact question. But I think it is in line with what we've been saying. So the comment was such: humans are the carriers and spreaders of the virus. So the temperature and external factors may not have a lot of effect. However, it may possibly impact the spread slightly. That's essentially what one of our listeners have asked. So you would agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is really okay. So now the next question I have is this. So this is not necessarily related to COVID-19, but are we in a position here in Qatar to move to renewable energy and electricity from solar resources, say, by tomorrow, if need be?
So as I told you before, the team has done a very big effort in building the solar Qatar Atlas. So we are now in a position to say that the solar resources in the country are one of the best in the world. Moving to renewable energy, it's one of the key messages and key points from Qatar National Development Strategy and the Sustainable Development Strategy for 2030, and there is a ecosystem that is being created in the country now, and we have recently, all of us, recently listened and heard, and QEERI, my team is working to collaborate with the different stakeholders for the new Al-Hassa plant, Siraj project, which is 800 megawatt power plant with a state-of-the-art, the very innovative technology. So the country is moving forward toward this renewable energy. To move quickly, if there is policy measurements and incentives can be done. The return of experience around the world has shown that renewable energy adoption of renewable energy only took place in a massive way in those regions where there was incentive policies and decision makers, and were supporting that from a policy point of view. So the country is ready, the ecosystem is being built. If there is the decisions there and the policy there, it will be fast.
You know, that is an interesting perspective, and it would be, I know at QEERI we do plenty of research in this area, so that leads me directly to this. So in your opinion, as an energy scientist, what are some of the key challenges in harnessing solar energy in Qatar? You know, it's really hot, it's sunny throughout the year. What are some of the challenges?
Okay, so we all know that Qatar is, from an outside perspective, it's very hot. It's high humidity, high salinity, high level of aerosols, high UV. So for those that we have a PV background, we know that these are not the worst conditions, but they are not good conditions for PV modules to be reliable in such a environment. However, since I took in charge at the Energy Center 2 years ago, I like to look to this question, know which are the challenges in harnessing solar energy in Qatar, but I transform that. So what are the opportunities to harnessing solar energy in Qatar? So we are developing in QEERI in collaboration with international partners, but we are developing and contributing to develop technologies and solutions that address Qatar environment. And for me, it's a real, I'd say that for me, being here, leading this team is just a very big opportunity, because if the technology that we are developing for Qatar weather conditions, when they will work, and they already work, and they are already reliable for 20, 25 years, if something that works here outside will work everywhere in the world. So today, QEERI is recognized as an international research environment center for the solar energy research, and we are recognized as the experts in desert and harsh climate conditions for PV, and not only for PV, in general for solar power plant development.
That is. To me, as QEERI's PR, of course, I'm very happy and proud to know that QEERI is leading this research in hot and arid climates. We just got this question from somebody who's listening to us. So in your opinion, how do you see the share of Qatar's energy mix increasing in the short term, say 2 to 3 years?
I'm a researcher. I don't like to make forecasting of this kind, because it will really depend on policy measures. So if incentive and policy measurements are in place at short term, the renewable energy part of the energy system can grow exponentially. But this is not only Qatar; it's everywhere. If there is not incentives, and for example, for one of the topics that we will be discussing during our next seminar, is how the recovery economic package around the world, the different countries, can be used to increase the part of the renewable energy in the energy mix, and really make a big step forward to the energy transition. If there is policy and economic measurements behind, will be done fast. If there is not, we will not be fast. So I cannot do any forecast. Just I can say that as a researcher and director of the Energy Center in QEERI, we are getting all the technologies ready to the level that when the decision will be made, we will be there to provide support.
So wouldn't you agree that the power plant that Karama is building, the 800 megawatt Al Karsha plant, that is one step in the right direction? So am I right to think that? Yeah. So based on that, somebody has asked us, what are our contribution as the nation's leading energy research institute towards the Al Siraj project, the Al Karsha plant?
So today, with Al Harsa plan and Siraj project, we are working with them in to to providing data. So we have one of our monitoring stations, meteo stations, is in this site. So we are building the database of solar radiation, and that will be helpful to forecast the production of the plant 3 days ahead, and we are now working with them in nowcasting, which is a very important parameter to balance the demand and the production of electricity. So we are in our outdoor test facility. We have installed trackers of the same or similar to those that are going to be installed in Siraj power plant. We have bifacial models, and that are similar or equal to those that are going to be in Siraj power plant. We have cleaning tools, robots in our outdoor test facility. So it means that we have the return of experience that our stakeholders, Siraj, QEWC, Kaharama, need to make this power plant more profitable by producing the most electricity possible under the current weather conditions. So we are partnering with them in different aspects.
While we're talking about partners, do we have international partners as well involved in this particular project, or any of our other research in energy?
Yeah, so we have QEERI Energy Center, an energy conversion program, is part of an international cluster in PV. It's called PV Desert, and we are, if I'm not wrong, about 11 research institutes around the world, sharing knowledge, sharing data, and return of experiments. And all of us, we are located in harsh desert conditions. So we have people in desert in China, in the Maghreb, in North Africa. We have partners in Atacama Desert, because when we look to desert, all deserts are different. There are Atacama Desert is very high UV, very high UV radiation, high salinity, but it's very dry desert. I told before, in Qatar we have almost all the conditions that may happen. In the Gobi Desert, the humidity is different. They do not have salinity. So we are part of international efforts in understanding how better optimize the desert environment for PV production. Yeah.
So we joined the PV Camper Consortium early last year. I believe that is the one that you're talking about, right? Okay. Yeah. So going back to the COVID-19 and its implications and impacts, one of our listeners is asking, do you think, especially seeing what we have seen over the last 1.5 months, do you think we need to create a more sustainable, clean energy system, to reduce the risk of disasters that climate change is bringing us, like we've experienced recently? So,
of course we did. I mean, I'm not only a passionate, but I'm a really believer of renewable energy, sustainable energy, as my boss like to call it, because even oil and gas are renewable because they renew themselves, but just is the time frame of this renewal. So it's sustainable energy, those energy that during the production of electricity or the transformation from one source of energy to another, they do not produce CO2 or greenhouse gases, or they minimize the production of these gases. So I really think that we need to use this, the opportunities that this health crisis has brought to us, to use the economic recovery to go through to a cleaner energy mix and cleaner energy system. And I really think that natural gas, LNG, can play a very big role in this, softening this transition from dark oil and gas, coal and oil gas production, electricity production, to a cleaner electricity production. But not only, because most of the energy transition today is focalized in electricity, but electricity is one of the components of the energy that we need as a society to continue living.
For that clarity and perspective, Dr. Veronica. Somebody had asked us, based on the comparison with the Lombardy in Italy, do you think there will be decreases in Qatar, and when do you think it will start?
So there are a few models that are around. We cannot yet forecast with our model that. We need still to incorporate the socioeconomic part. Other colleagues, for example, in Singapore, set the peak in Qatar around late May. So we need to consider that what has been doing Qatar, from my point of view, it has been really smart in the fact that they have been controlling the epidemic below the threshold of saturation of the health system. So they have been finding the right measurements just to allow a certain economic activity, reduce the transmission as much as possible, to be below the saturation level of the health system here in Qatar, but reducing the economic impact. So in North Italy and in Spain, the decisions were taken late for whatever reason, and the epidemic got uncontrolled. So it means that they were not able to control the rate of increase of cases, daily cases, and to keep them below the capacities of the health system, and the health system got saturated. So this was the real problem. And when I showed you the two simulation cases, this is what I wanted, the message. So the near lockdown of Qatar took place early enough to assure us that the risk was decreased in such a way that the health system could take care of Qatar population, while in other regions this did not took place, and to avoid having the epidemic growing still, they needed to go through a almost full lockdown. So I cannot say when. Some models say that put that by the end of May, but I'm not aware of their hypothesis, so I cannot commit on that.
Thank you for your honesty on that question. So, I mean, this is not related, but I'm hoping this will lead to a possible collaboration in the future. One of the doctors listening in wanted to know, what are the main activities of the catalysis and process technology program?
So today, all our research is market-driven and industry need-driven. So today we are working with two main stakeholders in this program, and our project is I can only comment that it is one of the projects is based in CO2 capture and conversion, and the other is in methane transformation. But I cannot comment further on that because they are strictly linked to industrial stakeholders. So if you are an industrial stakeholder, we are open to make business with you.
Thank you so much for that. So if you want to connect to our energy team and to connect to our catalysis and process technology team, please drop us an email and we'll make sure you hear from us. Okay, so another question that we have is this. 1 second, yeah. So we've seen that the air quality has improved due to COVID-19 and the social distancing practices. So, and we also know that the PV plant performance improves when the air quality is improved. So have you had any studies, to assess the efficiency and at our outdoor test facility before COVID and during the social distancing practices to see the difference in efficiency?
So we are following that. We are building the database of that, but we need to take before being able to answer that question. we need to have a few more weeks of information to avoid having our conclusions polluted by the fact that we are also changing season. So we went from spring and now we are entering summer, and we need to have a larger period of data collection to be able to answer that question. But if you send me an email when we will have a reliable conclusion, I will be very glad to give you that feedback. I would expect that it will increase. From my experience, I would expect a higher efficiency, higher performance.
We also will discuss that during the next webinar. So definitely don't miss the next webinar on the implications that this has. Okay, so somebody asked, the gentleman told us that he's read somewhere that it could be that COVID-19 could spread through air from air conditioners. Have you seen any research globally on that? Do you have any thoughts?
So as I told before, the research in COVID-19 is in very preliminary stages. So you can, and most of the papers that are circulating are not reviewed papers. So you know that the scientific community, before publishing in good journals, we have our papers, our communications reviewed by our peers and other experts, independent experts, that certify that what we are saying has been, or our conclusion has been achieved following the right methodology in terms of data gathering, analysis, hypothesis, and conclusion. So most of the papers that you are seeing around are not yet through this process. This means that we can find that papers and literature where you see that there is air, that COVID is airborne. It means that it also diffuse through air, but others that not. So the only thing I can say is that we have not seen any evidence of that, and that most of the reliable information we have received is that it can only circulate through big water drops, and not just in small air particles around that we have around, and aerosols and so on. And I would say that we need to wait a little bit more to know more about this. But the first impression of the published data is that no, it does not transmit, and it does not diffuse through air.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. I mean, I think one thing that we do need to keep in mind is that this is a relatively new virus, and the studies are ongoing, and also that the priority that researchers around the world have at this point of time is related to patients and related to the direct health of the public. But as we go along, we'll probably see a lot more research on elements like water and energy in the next year or so. So this is ongoing research, and right now we are at the very beginning phases of it, which must be very interesting for you as a scientist. The next question that's popped up, Dr. Veronica, again, it's going away from COVID-19, but as a resident of Qatar, it's also interesting for me in terms of energy. The World Cup is coming in about 2 years' time, and we're looking at massive stadiums and the lighting and all of that. So in terms of energy, what are the challenges, and is there a shift to something more sustainable? Is there a shift to something that is more eco-friendly from your point of view and from your interactions with stakeholders? What can you tell us?
So just keep in mind that the World Cup has been, the target is to have the first World Cup CO2 neutral. So it means that already just having this target, it means that the government is targeting a sustainable event. So what I can see from the different interactions we have is with the stakeholders is that national stakeholders are really pushing forward to have a sustainable event, and they are putting all the means available to their hands to make this a successful, sustainable event from energy and air quality point of view. So I hope it will be done.
In these parts of the world, I am sure, because we are seeing a lot of activity, not just with the energy program, but across our various programs and our stakeholders, specifically related to FIFA World Cup 2022. Moving forward, oil and gas is a key component in the energy matrix in this country. So how long do you think that it will take for the oil and gas prices to stabilize after the pandemic?
So this is a question that we will be addressing in our next seminar. Today, I cannot forecast that. We are working with our experts, internal experts, international experts on this subject. The question is not only when, it is also at which level. But if I'm honest with you, I cannot answer in a reliable way this question today. But it will be. I encourage you to take a look to your email, because we will be announcing very soon the next seminar that may happen the first or second week of June, where we will be tackling this question between others.
All right. Thank you so much for that. So, as you and everybody else knows, this price of oil has, collapsed. Is still saying it nicely. It has completely been destroyed. So, do you think that this is, we will see a more robust approach worldwide to, solar energy during this time?
It will depend. I mean, there are already countries that have announced their economic recovery package to support their oil and gas industry. So it really will depend on if there is not an international, a worldwide agreement to use this opportunity to fight against climate change. It will really depend on country per country and case by case.
That is good to know. While we are on the topic of oil and gas, we just got this. Are there any models to predict or to foresee the fluctuations? I mean, the drop we saw last week, where it went into really negative kind of prices. I don't think that was expected at all. So, is there any models that we're seeing to predict these fluctuations?
I'm not an expert in this kind of economic modeling, because at the end it's most an economic modeling. I would say that there are some kind of models, but I do not think that there are models that can predict this kind of fluctuations, because many of them are geopolitical base and have a geopolitical component that is difficult to measure. And if we had this kind of models, investors will be just not losing money with the oil and gas fluctuations. So I do not know if there are, but I do not think so.
Thank you so much for that. So, while we're on that topic, somebody is asking us, does QEERI also do research on improving the energy efficiency of gas-fired power plants? Yeah, we have in energy efficiency, and we have some projects dealing with this topic. Yeah, and we have expertise. Although if we do not have any project in any current project running now, we have expertise in process technology in catalysis and process technology program. We have expertise in process technology for power plants to improve efficiency. So we do, and we have the capability to do more. Okay, that is interesting to know. And somebody wanted to know, what is the ratio between the historic data used in your model and that is being currently used? Do you see any comparisons from before in your modeling, and what are your thoughts? I don't understand the question. Sorry. So the question, I will read it word for word, is what is the ratio between the historic data used in the model and the data that is being used to validate currently?
So the data is are all historical. I mean, you build a model with historical data, and this database, historical database, is updated day by day. So, and this is what allows you to build the model to be able to use that model to forecast. But once you are able to to evaluate your forecast, these data are already historical that are integrated in the model. So it is a looping cycle. So you build based on historical, you forecast, and when we come to the future, this is already past. So it adds to the historical part. I don't know if I'm clear in my answer.
Yeah, you know, I mean, if that was not what you were looking for, Dr. Isa, who actually I believe is joining us from South Africa. So, Dr. Isa, if that was not what you were looking for, you can either ask us a question now, or you can email to us, and Dr. Veronica would be happy to respond to you shortly. Going back to LNG, do you know if there is any existing plan, you know, for recovery, either at a global level or within Qatar?
I'm not aware of it. I'm not aware of it.
Okay. So now we have the next question we have is, how can the model predict daily cases so accurately when the testing policy is not considered in the model? So, for example, contact tracing is not been integrated into the model. So how can you believe that it daily cases accurately?
So this variable is considered in the model. So remember that I told you that the model is considering 33 variables, but it only shows us the 20 more relevant. So all these parameters are considered in the model to build its credibility and reliability. Of course, after and this testing is country related. Not all the countries are built. Not all the countries are testing at the same rate, and not all the countries have the same ratio of testing. But this is already considered in the model as parameter. But it is not one of the most important to consider to account for the spread.
So much for that clarification. While we are on sort of the topic of COVID, one of our scientists also asked, so you know, he wanted to know more about PM 2.5. So his thought process was that PM 2.5 decrease is seen in places that are not very highly populated. So would your sort of study also connect to that, or would in terms of the population itself is a factor in air quality, and so how important is the population factor in your modeling as well?
So the population factor is the most important one is the density factor. It's not the absolute number, but it is the density. It is considered in the model, and you can see that within the socioeconomic parameters. And it is one of the parameters that the model uses also to weight the different parameters that it considers to be more relevant to the spread of the disease.
Okay, that is very interesting to know. We are 15 minutes over time, so I will have, this is the mark where I have to jump in and say we can only take 3 more questions. But like I have mentioned before, we are welcome to receiving your questions by email, and our team will try their best to respond to you to the questions. So we did speak about this. This is another question we have. So based on the initial modeling that your team has been running, when do you think Qatar would reach its predicted peak period? And do you have any kind of numbers as to how many cases would this mean, considering the current measures in place?
Yeah, we already answered a similar question. We cannot, with our model, we still cannot predict when the peak is predicted to be reached. We still need to integrate the socio-economic and policy related variables. But from other point of view, this is not the target of our study. The target of our study is to be able to develop a risk assessment and awareness platform to predict when I should take certain restriction measurements and when I should prevent myself as an individual to go to a certain location. As I told before, there are some studies, mainly from a university in Singapore, that predict the peak around the end of May. And regarding the cases, today we cannot predict that. I mean, it really depends on measurements and policy measurements taken by the government, but not only that, it's the compliance of the people to follow the rules. It means wearing your mask, no gatherings, all things that we should not do and sometimes we do. So it really depends on policy and how we comply with these measurements.
I mean, ultimately, I believe, the way to beat COVID would be for us to each individually take the responsibility and not just depend on the government. And, it comes, each stay at home and stay safe is absolutely the way forward with this. I have another question that's popped up. So how will the models and the results be made available to the stakeholders and the public if they want to see the studies that's going on?
So the final target will be for sure to make available and share this platform in application-based as an application-based platform after the right and the appropriate controls and approvals by the relevant government entities. The model and data is already available to our stakeholders. So as I told you, we are sharing with MOPH, the Minister of Public Health, our preliminary results, and they are sharing with us localized, geolocalized data per neighborhood. So the government is already have the availability to take a look to the results and the model from now, and the final platform will be available after the rights approvals when it is finished.
Once it is ready, we will, we are absolutely looking at ways to, ensure that the public has access to a lot of our data. One of the projects that I'm personally working with the Energy Center on is the Solar Atlas. That is a very interesting tool to see how the sunlight is received and across Qatar. So, the Energy Center, as well as the other centers, are continuously working with ministries and, policy makers across the country, along with other stakeholders, and to ensure that our research is made available for Qatar. The next question we have is this, Dr. Veronica. So, in your professional opinion, and based on the research that you've seen, be it within Qatar or abroad, is there any connection between the mortality rate and due to COVID-19 and the temperature and humidity data? Considering GCC countries have shown far less number of deaths when it comes to COVID-19 as compared to, say, the United States or Europe. So does factors like temperature and humidity have any role to play?
So they may. So we are. The first thing is that we are not looking today to the mortality rate. We are not we have not incorporated in the model the mortality and the casualties. However, in my opinion, there would be there should be a relationship from the moment that if we consider that what we are seeing from the model is that the temperature and the absolute humidity has an impact in reducing the viability of the virus. It means in reducing its strength and weakening it. It may mean that as you are reducing the ferocity of the virus, when it reaches you, it is less effective. But we need, and this is the next step that we will take forward, is to work with our epidemiologist colleagues in different centers around QF to be sure that these preliminary results can be used for them in their epidemiologic modeling to assess this statement from a scientific point of view. So what we can say is that there is a decrease in the viability of the virus, that it is weakened, and this can affect. But it will be to the biologists, doctors, and epidemiologists to confirm that point.
Thank you so much. And now for the final question for you for today's webinar, as well as the final question for to conclude the QEERI webinar series on COVID-19. This, of course, is from me, and it not very objective because as QEERI's PR person, I believe it is important to talk about the work that we do. So, Dr. Veronica, can you please tell us, what your center, as well as what the other centers, and in brief, are doing to fight COVID-19?
So we have different approaches. So for Energy Center, you have seen already 2 of our projects. So we have 2 more, as I told before, one in developing through computational methods and in collaboration with Qatar Biological Research Institute and Qatar Computing Research Institute. We are trying to identify and further synthesize nanoenzymes that can help to protect different surfaces to avoid contagion from physical contact. And this is one project. The second project is in how to integrate, from an engineering point of view, ultraviolet radiation in the HVAC systems that will have this advantage to clean the air indoor in our indoor flow, airflow. So these are projects that we are already running in Energy Center. In the Environmental Sustainability Center, you listen to Mohammed Ayub. He was the first speaker. So we are looking to how the air quality variation can be used to assess the effectiveness of the restriction measurements in the country. And they have been also testing detergents from the different stakeholders in the country to assess the reliability of the detergents we are using to clean and to disinfect different locations around the country. They have been also looking to the potential spread of the virus in particulate matters that fly with sandstorms to look into that. To my understanding, there is no finding of virus in the particles, so which is a very good news to know that the air we breathe is not contaminated by this COVID-19 virus. From the water side, they are looking very seriously what should be done from a waste treatment point of view. If there is any international red flag saying that this virus can be transmitted there, so that they are getting ready to act if needed, and they have day-to-day surveillance of water literature resources to get ready to interact when it is needed. The other centers, I'm not aware of current research on COVID, but what I can say is that QEERI, globally, we are the leading research institute in Qatar for water, environment, and energy, and that anytime that one of our capabilities, expertise, and all resources can be tuned to help the country to overcome any challenging situation, so we are here to help.
Thank you so much for that answer, Dr. Veronica, and thank you for helping us understand what QEERI is doing to fight COVID-19 and how QEERI is supporting Qatar. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our email address if you want to ask us any questions. It was a pleasure having you with us here today. And the last 2 days, this is our third, like I just mentioned. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us for our 3 webinars on behalf of QEERI's Executive Director, Dr. Mark Vermeersch, and my SRDs, Dr. Mohammed Ayub, Dr. Jenny Lawler, and Dr. Veronica Bermudez. It has been a pleasure to talk to you, and it has been a pleasure to answer all of your questions. We hope that these webinars have been beneficial to you. If you have any feedback, any thoughts, any ideas, any interest in collaboration, please reach out to us at any time. The email address is QEERI-communication@hbku.edu.qa. That's QEERI-COMMUNICATION. That's communication without an S at HBKU, Hamad bin Khalifa University .edu.qa. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much. Please continue to stay home and stay safe. And until next time, this is thank you and Ramadan Kareem from the team at the Qatar Environment and Energy Research Institute. Bye-bye.